Science fiction has always served as a lens through which humanity examines itself, revealing fears, ambitions, and the fragile boundaries of morality and technology. Some stories, however, stretch that lens to its limits, portraying futures so intense and plausible that they unsettled audiences the moment they were first revealed. These are the films that dared to imagine extremes, where the consequences of human choices, technological advancement, and societal control were explored in ways that felt both extraordinary and uncomfortably real. This video journeys through 15 action-driven sci-fi films that were once perceived as too radical, too dark, or too real for their time. Each story depicts individuals confronting systems of power, artificial intelligences, or moral dilemmas that challenge their autonomy and force a re-evaluation of trust, survival, and identity. The worlds presented are grounded, detailed, and precise, offering narratives where suspense and action coexist with ethical and philosophical undertones. These are films that do not simply entertain. They provoke reflection on the forces shaping human destiny and the consequences of choices made in moments of extremity. We are not considering animation superhero adventures or episodic television series. Instead, this countdown focuses on cinematic experiences that balance adrenaline with contemplation, where each confrontation, revelation, or escape illuminates broader questions about control, innovation, and ethical responsibility. These films continue to resonate because they do more than depict conflict. They evoke the tension between what is imagined and what is possible, between human aspiration and human limitation. As you follow this countdown, consider how narratives that once seemed implausible now echo contemporary concerns. How do these imagined extremes reflect the human condition, our anxieties about technology, and the ethical dilemmas we continue to face? These stories invite us into worlds that are thrilling yet cautionary, encouraging thought about the precarious balance between power and conscience. In revisiting these films, we encounter not only action and spectacle, but also enduring questions about who we are, what we fear, and how the choices of today might shape the possibilities of tomorrow. 1. Pitch Black, 2000. Pitch Black opens with an oppressive, isolating atmosphere, where darkness conceals both physical and moral threats. From the start, the cinematic tone evokes tension and vulnerability, immersing the viewer in a landscape where survival and ethical choice are inseparable. The film immediately establishes a world where instincts, fear, and cooperation define the human response to extraordinary peril. A group of crash survivors is stranded on a desolate planet where nightfall brings predatory creatures and relentless danger. They must navigate environmental hazards, interpersonal conflict, and the constant threat of extinction. Suspense arises from resource scarcity, alien attacks, and ethical decisions, balancing physical danger with reflective tension as the narrative unfolds. At its core, Pitch Black examines survival, leadership, and moral judgment under extreme circumstances. It explores how humans respond to fear, uncertainty, and ethical challenges, highlighting resilience, cooperation, and the fragility of social order. Cinematic elements, chiaroscuro lighting, careful camera angles, and a tense musical score reinforce both suspense and thematic depth. By integrating action with ethical reflection, the film emphasizes the stakes of human behavior in extraordinary conditions. The story leaves a lingering impression of tension and introspection. Pitch Black continues to resonate as a study of human behavior, morality, and resilience in extreme environments, underscoring the broader ethical questions central to speculative fiction. 2. Existence, 1999. A tense, mutable atmosphere dominates Existence Z, immediately immersing viewers in a world where the line between game and reality blurs. The opening evokes both intrigue and disorientation, hinting at the ethical and psychological consequences of immersive technology. The film sets a stage where trust, identity, and perception are constantly questioned, generating suspense that is both cerebral and visceral. A game designer develops an organic virtual reality system and becomes targeted by adversaries seeking to exploit her creation. Navigating shifting realities, she confronts deception and ambiguity, testing both her skills and her understanding of what is real. Tension escalates through unpredictable environments, high-stakes encounters, and ethical dilemmas, keeping the audience engaged while deepening the narrative's philosophical undertones. At its core, Existence examines autonomy ethics and the human susceptibility to manipulation through technology. It explores how perception and decision-making can be influenced by external systems and the responsibilities of creators who wield transformative power. Stylistic choices, including dynamic camera work, surreal visuals, and deliberate pacing, reinforce the narrative's thematic complexity. The film translates abstract technological concepts into compelling human stakes, offering reflection on trust agency and the interplay between control and freedom. The film leaves a lasting impression of ambiguity and ethical reflection. Existence resonates because it merges thrilling action with meditation on identity perception and the consequences of immersive innovation, inviting continued contemplation. 3. The 13th Floor, 1999. A subtle sense of disorientation permeates the 13th floor, enveloping the viewer in a reality that is layered, fragile, and uncertain. The opening atmosphere evokes curiosity and unease, drawing attention to the delicate line between perception and truth. The film immediately situates the audience in a world where technology not only entertains, but also questions the foundations of identity, memory, and existence itself. A computer scientist discovers that his virtual simulation is inhabited by sentient beings, revealing that the boundaries between the simulated and the real are not absolute. As he investigates anomalies, he navigates threats and ethical dilemmas, piecing together a puzzle that challenges both personal and societal notions of reality. Suspense is maintained through carefully revealed plot twists and the protagonist's navigation of layered worlds, immersing viewers in a narrative where stakes are both tangible and conceptual. At its core, the 13th Floor explores identity autonomy and the ethical dimensions of creation. The film examines how technological innovation can manipulate perception, raise moral questions, and provoke reflection on the consequences of human ingenuity. Cinematic techniques, including careful framing, atmospheric lighting, and deliberate pacing, reinforce the tension and thematic resonance. The narrative balances action with introspection, transforming speculative technology into a meditation on consciousness, agency, and responsibility. By anchoring extraordinary technological concepts in human stakes, the story engages both intellect and emotion. The film leaves a lingering impression of uncertainty and moral contemplation. The 13th Floor resonates as a meditation on creation, perception, and the ethical implications of manipulating reality, extending its thematic relevance beyond the narrative and inviting continued reflection. 4. Soldier, 1998. Soldier immerses viewers in a dystopian future where human life is engineered for utility and efficiency, creating an atmosphere of tension and reflection. The cinematic tone juxtaposes rigorous training and combat with ethical inquiry, presenting a world where survival, loyalty, and autonomy collide. The narrative encourages contemplation of the consequences of human manipulation, both technological and social, on identity and morality. A highly trained soldier is deemed obsolete and discarded by his superiors. Stranded on a hostile planet, he must navigate environmental hazards and confront social groups that challenge his ingrained programming. The narrative builds suspense through high-stakes confrontations, survival challenges, and ethical decisions, blending action with thematic depth. Each encounter tests both physical skill and moral judgment, situating the protagonist in a landscape of reflection and danger. At its core, Soldier examines autonomy ethics and the human cost of technological enhancement. It questions the morality of creating individuals as instruments of warfare and probes the resilience of human agency under external control. Cinematic techniques, dynamic combat choreography, stark industrial settings, and measured pacing enhance both tension and thematic resonance. By presenting ethical dilemmas alongside visceral action, the film balances excitement with contemplation, illustrating the costs of subjugated potential and engineered purpose. Soldier leaves a lingering impression as a meditation on human dignity and the ethical implications of engineered efficiency. Its resonance endures in discussions of autonomy, morality, and the responsibilities inherent in technological progress. 5. Dark City, 1998. Dark City envelopes the viewer in a labyrinthine metropolis where shadows and light carve a world suspended between reality and manipulation. The opening atmosphere conveys unease and intrigue, suggesting a society under the subtle dominion of enigmatic forces. From the outset, the film immerses the audience in a cinematic space where perception is contested and human identity becomes a site of existential exploration. A man awakens with amnesia to find the city controlled by mysterious beings who alter memories and manipulate reality nightly. He seeks understanding and autonomy amid shifting environments, gradually piecing together the mechanisms of control. Suspense is maintained through the methodical revelation of secrets, the protagonist's navigation of uncertainty, and the ever-present tension between comprehension and disorientation. The narrative engages viewers as though they are walking alongside the character, experiencing the city's distortions firsthand. At its core, Dark City interrogates memory control and self-determination. It examines the human desire for agency within a manipulated environment and probes how identity can be constructed or constrained by external forces. Stylistic elements, noir-inspired lighting, angular architecture, and dynamic camera work reinforce thematic concerns and heighten the cinematic experience. The story blends suspense, visual storytelling, and philosophical reflection, inviting contemplation on autonomy, morality, and the structures that shape perception. The film leaves a resonant echo of uncertainty and introspection. Dark City continues to provoke reflection on the interplay between control and free will, situating its narrative within a broader conversation about human experience in speculative worlds. 6. Hardware, 1990. A pervasive tension inhabits hardware as the story unfolds. In a desolate urban landscape dominated by human ingenuity and its unintended consequences, the cinematic atmosphere suggests both fascination and dread, drawing viewers into a world where technology once created to serve becomes an unpredictable force. From the first moments, the film juxtaposes human curiosity with the latent menace of autonomous machinery, creating a narrative that is simultaneously thrilling and reflective. An artist unknowingly brings a deactivated military robot into her apartment. As it reassembles itself, the machine becomes an autonomous threat, endangering all nearby. The protagonists must navigate the confined environment, improvising strategies to survive against a relentless and intelligent adversary. Suspense is amplified through gradual escalation, detailed depiction of the robot's actions, and the increasing isolation of the characters, blending visceral tension with intellectual engagement. At its core, Hardware examines the fragile boundary between creation and control. It interrogates the consequences of human oversight and negligence, exploring the ethical dimensions of technological advancement. The film emphasizes how curiosity, ambition, and the pursuit of innovation can produce unintended dangers when ethical responsibility is absent. Visual storytelling through stark lighting, kinetic editing, and industrial soundscapes enhances both narrative tension and thematic resonance. By situating a technologically plausible threat within a human context, Hardware explores moral and existential stakes alongside thrilling action. The lingering echo of the film reminds viewers of the perils inherent in unchecked innovation. It resonates as a cautionary reflection on responsibility, human error, and the latent power of technology, extending its thematic relevance far beyond the immediate narrative. 7. RoboCop 2, 1990. RoboCop 2 envelops the viewer in a dystopian cityscape where technology and corporate ambition collide with human ethics. The atmosphere is tense and foreboding, evoking the perils of authority unchecked and the fragility of moral responsibility. From the opening moments, the story immerses the audience in a world where law, commerce, and morality intersect in complex, often disturbing ways. A cyborg law enforcer confronts urban crime, while a corporate prototype threatens to replace him, highlighting the collision between human judgment and mechanized efficiency. The narrative escalates as technological control and corporate interests clash with ethical obligations, and action sequences are interwoven with moral tension. Suspense arises from both external threats and the protagonist's internal struggle to reconcile duty with autonomy. At its core, RoboCop 2 explores autonomy ethics and the societal impact of technology and corporate influence. It interrogates the consequences of subordinating human judgment to profit and efficiency, emphasizing moral responsibility amid systemic pressures. Cinematic techniques, dynamic visuals, intense soundscapes, and deliberate pacing reinforce both suspense and thematic depth. By embedding ethical questions within thrilling action, the film transforms futuristic conflict into a meditation on power choice and responsibility. The narrative leaves a lasting echo, prompting reflection on authority, technological ethics, and societal vulnerability. RoboCop 2 continues to resonate as a cautionary vision of the delicate balance between power, morality, and human agency in speculative fiction. 8. The Running Man, 87. The Running Man opens with a society saturated by spectacle, where danger and entertainment collide, creating an atmosphere of tension and moral ambiguity. The cinematic space evokes both excitement and unease as viewers witness the manipulation of perception and the commodification of human struggle. From the outset, the film asks us to reflect on the ethical consequences of entertainment in a controlled society. A falsely accused man is forced to compete in a televised death game, navigating deadly traps and formidable opponents. Each confrontation exposes the mechanisms of societal control, blending physical threat with psychological tension. The narrative escalates stakes through clever survival strategies and ethical choices, maintaining suspense while emphasizing the interplay between individual agency and systemic manipulation. At its core, The Running Man interrogates media influence, authority, and the ethical cost of spectacle. It examines how public perception can be shaped and exploited, raising questions about compliance, moral compromise, and resistance. Stylistic choices, dynamic editing, stark visuals, and rhythmic pacing enhance the narrative's tension while reinforcing thematic clarity. By presenting a high-stakes scenario grounded in plausible social dynamics, the film combines thrilling action with reflective insight into power and control. The film leaves a lingering impression as a cautionary tale of manipulation and spectacle. Its resonance endures because it merges adrenaline-driven sequences with contemplation of authority ethics and human behavior. 9. Enemy Mine, 1985. A cold, alien wind sweeps across the barren landscape of Enemy Mine, setting a tone of isolation and fragile coexistence. The film immerses the viewer in a world where hostility is ingrained, yet survival demands collaboration. From the first moments, tension intertwines with ethical reflection, inviting contemplation of the thin line between enemy and ally. The atmosphere is charged, suggesting that understanding and trust may emerge from even the harshest circumstances. A human soldier becomes stranded on a hostile planet alongside a fighter from an enemy species. Initially driven by prejudice and suspicion, they are forced to cooperate to survive extreme environmental challenges. As they navigate the dangers of their surroundings, personal growth and mutual understanding unfold incrementally. The narrative maintains suspense through escalating threats, survival strategies, and the slow unraveling of interpersonal tension. At its core, Enemy Mine explores empathy, prejudice, and the potential for reconciliation. It considers how extraordinary circumstances can redefine relationships and challenge entrenched perceptions of otherness. Cinematic choices, harsh, desolate landscapes, measured pacing, and restrained sound design reinforce the narrative's contemplative tension. By situating the story within a plausible sci-fi framework, The film emphasizes moral complexity, illustrating that cooperation and ethical decision-making are as compelling as physical survival. The story resonates with broader questions about humanity, social constructs, and the potential to transcend ingrained conflict when confronted with necessity. The lingering echo of Enemy Mine reminds viewers that understanding often emerges in unexpected spaces. It highlights the enduring relevance of empathy, ethical reflection, and the negotiation between survival and morality, situating the narrative within the broader landscape of speculative fiction. 10. The Last Starfighter, 1984. The Last Starfighter opens with a sense of wonder, tempered by anticipation, evoking a world where ordinary life collides with extraordinary destiny. The cinematic atmosphere captures the thrill of adventure, while hinting at the broader ethical and existential implications of unexpected opportunity. It is a universe where skill, chance, and moral choice converge, creating a narrative that is both exhilarating and contemplative. Alex Rogan, a teenage arcade player, achieves a high score that triggers recruitment into an interstellar defense force. Thrust into cosmic conflict, he must navigate challenges that test both his skill and his moral judgment. The story develops through escalating action sequences and strategic encounters, blending personal growth with interstellar stakes. Suspense and engagement arise from the contrast between familiar human experience and the vast unknown cosmos. At its core, The Last Starfighter explores themes of destiny, responsibility, and the ethical use of talent. The film examines how ordinary individuals respond when confronted with extraordinary demands, highlighting the interplay between choice and circumstance. Visual effects, narrative pacing, and musical scoring reinforce both the thrill and the thematic depth, creating a cinematic experience that balances action with reflection. The story transforms speculative adventure into a meditation on courage, ethical decision-making, and the latent potential within ordinary life. As the narrative echoes forward, The Last Starfighter lingers as a testament to human adaptability and moral reflection under pressure. It resonates as a story of empowerment and ethical engagement, reminding viewers of the enduring consequences of choice and skill within speculative worlds. 11. The Dead Zone, 1983. The Dead Zone opens with an atmosphere of quiet unease, where foresight becomes a burden as much as a gift. The film creates a palpable tension by situating the protagonist in a world on the cusp of revelation, emphasizing the weight of knowledge and the moral dilemmas that accompany extraordinary perception. It is a cinematic exploration of the ethical and psychological implications of seeing what others cannot. Johnny Smith awakens from a coma to discover he possesses the ability to foresee future events. As he encounters potential tragedies and societal threats, he must navigate the tension between action and restraint. Each decision carries moral and personal weight, and the narrative draws viewers through the unfolding consequences of insight that exceeds ordinary comprehension. Suspense emerges from the interplay of human vulnerability and the responsibility imposed by precognition. At its core, The Dead Zone investigates human choice, the ethics of intervention, and the psychological burden of extraordinary knowledge. The film interrogates how foresight challenges identity, social responsibility, and the perception of inevitability. Stylistic elements, including measured pacing, deliberate framing, and a haunting score, accentuate the narrative's reflective tension. By embedding moral and ethical questions within a suspenseful framework, the film deepens the cinematic experience, highlighting the delicate balance between knowledge and action, insight and restraint. In its enduring resonance, The Dead Zone reflects on the costs and responsibilities of perception. The story leaves viewers contemplating the ethical limits of foresight and the fragility of human judgment when confronted with the burden of knowing what lies ahead. 12. Brainstorm, 1983. A quiet tension pervades Brainstorm as the film delves into the intimate and uncharted terrain of human experience. The opening atmosphere evokes both curiosity and apprehension, highlighting the dual potential of technology to illuminate and to intrude. This is a world where innovation brushes against ethical boundaries and where the allure of exploration is shadowed by unforeseen consequences, creating a cinematic space that feels both immediate and reflective. A team of scientists develops a device capable of recording and projecting sensory experiences. As tests progress, a colleague dies under mysterious circumstances, raising urgent moral questions. The narrative follows the remaining team members as they confront both technical and ethical dilemmas, navigating escalating tension and personal stakes. Suspense is drawn not only from the device's capabilities, but also from the human responses it elicits, situating the audience within a world where intellect and emotion intertwine. At its core, Brainstorm examines the intersection of technology and morality, exploring the ways in which human ambition can both illuminate and endanger consciousness. The film probes the ethics of observation, consent, and responsibility, questioning the boundaries between creation and exploitation. Cinematic techniques, including immersive visual sequences, deliberate pacing, and musical modulation, reinforce the tension and thematic resonance. By presenting speculative technology through relatable human stakes, the story engages viewers in a meditation on the promises and perils of innovation, illuminating broader anxieties about control knowledge and the vulnerability inherent in human experience. As the narrative concludes, Brainstorm leaves a lingering impression of both wonder and caution. It resonates as a reflection on the ethical and emotional dimensions of technological advancement, highlighting the enduring tension between curiosity and responsibility, between discovery and the moral implications that accompany it. 13. Looker, 1981. Looker immerses the audience in a world of technological control and aesthetic manipulation, where surface perfection masks underlying ethical complexities. The opening atmosphere conveys tension and subtle menace, suggesting a society in which image and perception are commodities subject to invisible influence. From the outset, the film encourages reflection on authenticity, trust, and the consequences of allowing technology to dictate human experience. A plastic surgeon discovers that his models are being replaced with digital duplicates in corporate advertising campaigns. As he investigates, he uncovers a network of technological control shaping public perception. The narrative heightens suspense through incremental revelations and ethical confrontations, guiding the viewer through a landscape where appearance and reality blur. Each step of the investigation exposes the fragility of trust and the subtle pervasiveness of manipulation. At its core, Looker examines the ethical implications of controlling human perception. It interrogates the power of technology and media to influence identity, desire, and societal behavior. Cinematography editing and early computer-generated imagery create a visual language that reinforces the narrative's tension and thematic depth. By focusing on plausibility and human stakes, the film transforms a story about marketing into a reflection on autonomy, responsibility, and the vulnerability of human judgment. The film leaves a lingering impression as a cautionary tale of mediated reality. Looker resonates because it is both thrilling and reflective, demonstrating how subtle manipulations can shape thought perception and culture, echoing the broader concerns of science fiction. 14. The Boys from Brazil, 1978. A shadow of historical dread permeates The Boys from Brazil, creating a cinematic atmosphere that is simultaneously suspenseful and reflective. The narrative draws the viewer into a chilling exploration of human ambition and moral compromise, illustrating the ways in which ideology and science can intersect to produce consequences both extraordinary and terrifying. The film's tension emerges not from spectacle alone, but from the plausibility of its premise and the ethical questions it raises. A Nazi hunter uncovers a series of murders connected to an elaborate genetic experiment designed to resurrect a dangerous historical figure. Each revelation escalates the moral stakes and deepens the sense of impending catastrophe. The hunter navigates a world where the ordinary and the horrific coexist, and where human intent can alter destinies on a global scale. Suspense is carefully maintained as the plot unfolds through investigative rigor, blending intellectual curiosity with emotional engagement. At its core, the film probes identity ethics and the consequences of manipulation. It interrogates the persistence of ideology, the responsibilities inherent in scientific experimentation, and the tension between fate and choice. Stylistic decisions, including measured camera work, stark visual contrasts, and a haunting score enhance the narrative's ominous atmosphere, reinforcing the weight of its moral inquiry. By situating extraordinary plots within recognizable human contexts, the story transforms abstract horror into an intimate reflective experience. The Boys from Brazil continues to resonate for its chilling explorations of human ambition and ethical responsibility. Its lingering impact derives from the uneasy questions it poses, forcing contemplation of how history, science, and morality intertwine. 15. Capricorn 1, 1977. A pervasive sense of unease blankets Capricorn. As the story unfolds in a world where truth is manipulated and trust becomes a scarce commodity. The air is thick with tension and the stakes are invisible, yet palpable. This film sets the stage for an exploration of deception at the highest levels, inviting reflection on the fragility of perception and the ethical compromises of authority. The narrative immerses the viewer in a reality that could have been where actions behind closed doors ripple outward with profound consequences. 3 astronauts are chosen for the first manned Mars mission. As the launch approaches, subtle irregularities hint at a concealed agenda. When the mission is revealed to be a hoax, the astronauts find themselves isolated and endangered, pursued by those sworn to maintain secrecy. The film guides viewers through escalating peril, while situating each character's struggle within a controlled, almost claustrophobic environment, blending suspense and ethical tension. At its core, Capricorn 1 examines authority, credibility, and the human capacity to navigate moral ambiguity. It asks how far institutions can go to preserve reputation and manipulate reality, and what remains of individual agency when confronted with systemic control. Through precise cinematography, deliberate pacing, and a score that underscores, rather than overwhelms the film, transforms procedural detail into a meditation on trust, fear, and the consequences of concealment. By embedding ethical dilemmas within a suspenseful framework, the story engages both intellect and emotion, revealing the enduring relevance of skepticism and critical thought. Even decades later, the film lingers as a cautionary echo about deception and obedience. Its resonance endures because it is not merely a tale of action or survival. It is a study of the tension between public expectation and hidden truths, leaving viewers to consider the fragility of certainty in a world ruled by information and influence. As this journey through 15 action-driven sci-fi films comes to a close, the echoes of these stories linger. Each narrative immerses us in worlds where human ambition, technological possibility, and moral choice collide, revealing both the fragility and resilience of the human spirit. These films do more than entertain. They probe the tensions between power perception and responsibility, asking us to consider the consequences of our actions in imagined futures that feel uncannily familiar. The landscapes we have traversed, from manipulated memories and virtual realities to interstellar conflict and survival under alien skies, highlight recurring questions about identity, ethics, and human agency. They remind us that technology, fear, and hope are deeply intertwined, shaping societies, relationships, and individual choices in ways both subtle and profound. These cinematic explorations offer not only spectacle, but a reflective mirror suggesting that the challenges of these imagined worlds echo our own potential futures. As you reflect on these films, consider, what do they reveal about our capacity to navigate uncertainty, wield power responsibly, and confront the ethical dilemmas that accompany innovation? The answers remain open as speculative fiction continues to illuminate the paths between human aspiration and consequence, inviting thought long after the final frame fades.